January 1979, a house somewhere in Queens, New York. Tommy DeSimone, 6'2", 225 pounds, dressed in a double-breasted black Bill Blass suit with a beige silk tie, stepped out of his front door and kissed his wife Angela goodbye. He was smiling. Tonight was the night. After years of killing for the Lucchese family, after the Lufthansa job, after everything he had done, Tommy DeSimone was finally getting made. Peter Vario and Bruno Facciolo picked him up. Tommy climbed into the back seat. They drove him to a house he had never been to before. He walked through the door expecting a ceremony, a table, a boss, a pinprick on his trigger finger, the oath. The room was empty. No table, no boss, just the cold click of a pistol behind him. Tommy DeSimone was 28 years old. He was never seen again. Goodfellas turned that moment into cinema. Joe Pesci walking into the empty room. The whispered, "Oh no," a bullet to the back of the head. The movie told you it happened because Tommy killed a made man, Billy Batts, a Gambino soldier, murdered without commission permission. And that's technically true. But the real reason Tommy DeSimone died that night was something Scorsese never put on screen. Something involving Henry Hill's wife, Henry Hill's boss, and a secret that connected them in a way the movie couldn't touch. This is the story of a love triangle inside the Lucchese crime family. A boss who slept with his soldier's wife, a psychopath who tried to rape her, and a mob execution that had nothing to do with honor and everything to do with a woman who ran to the wrong man for protection. This is the betrayal Goodfellas never showed. You have to understand who Karen Friedman actually was before any of this makes sense. She wasn't born into the life. She grew up in Lawrence, Long Island, the Five Towns, Nassau County, a Jewish family in a comfortable neighborhood, the kind of place where girls were expected to marry dentists and accountants, not wise guys. She met Henry Hill in 1965 on a double date. Paul Vario's son, Paulie Jr., wanted to take out Karen's friend and needed someone for Karen. Henry was the someone. The first date was a disaster. Henry stood her up for the second one. Most women would have walked away. Karen tracked him down and confronted him. That was Karen. She didn't disappear quietly. They eloped to North Carolina that same year, in August 1965. Karen was 19 years old. A Jewish girl from Long Island married to an Irish-Italian street hustler working under the most powerful Lucchese crew in Brooklyn. Her parents were horrified. Henry converted to Judaism on paper. It meant nothing. What mattered was that Karen had stepped into a world she couldn't leave, not easily, not safely. For the next several years, the money was good and the life was fast. Henry was earning. Jimmy Burke was earning. Tommy DeSimone was earning. And Paul Vario sat at the top of it all, a Lucchese caporigine who ran gambling operations across East New York and controlled the cargo theft pipeline at JFK Airport. Vario pulled in an estimated $25,000 a day from illegal operations alone. He was 6'3", roughly 250 pounds, and when he spoke, everybody in the crew listened. In the movie, Paul Sorvino plays him like a disappointed father. The real Vario once beat a barmaid with a baseball bat for telling his wife about their affair, breaking her collarbone. That's who Paulie really was. But here's where the story turns. In 1972, Henry Hill and Jimmy Burke got convicted of extortion. They'd beaten a gambler named Gaspar Chiacho nearly to death in Tampa, Florida. The sentence was 10 years each. Henry entered the federal penitentiary at Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, and almost immediately, the life Karen had known collapsed. Think about it. When a wise guy goes to prison, his wife is supposed to be taken care of. That's the deal. The crew covers the bills, keeps the family fed, makes sure nobody bothers her. But Karen wasn't a made man's wife. Henry was an associate, half Irish. He could never be fully made. And once he was behind bars, the support dried up. The cash stopped coming. The phone stopped ringing. The women who'd been her friends at dinners and parties, gone. Karen Hill was alone, 2 young daughters, no income, no protection, and the only person who stepped in was the most powerful man in her world. Paul Vario had his own troubles. He had been convicted of tax evasion in February 1973 and sentenced to 6 years at Lewisburg, the same prison as Henry. But Vario was released in 1975. Henry would not get paroled until July 12, 1978. That left a window of roughly 3 years where Vario was free on the streets, and Karen was still struggling by herself. According to Henry Hill's memoir, Gangsters and Goodfellas, the affair began during this period. The exact start date is not documented. Karen has never confirmed it. She has never denied it either. But Henry acknowledged it years later with what can only be described as resigned acceptance. He did not confront Vario. He could not. Challenging a capo of that stature, a man who had been his mentor and protector since he was a kid, would have been suicide. Not figuratively, literally. You do not tell Paul Vario he cannot have what he wants. That is not how it works. Now hold that in your mind. Karen is sleeping with Paulie, Henry is locked up, and Tommy DeSimone is about to make the worst mistake of his short, violent life. Here's the thing about the real Tommy DeSimone that Goodfellas completely distorts. Joe Pesci played him as a 5'4" firecracker, small, wiry, compensating for his size with explosive rage. The real Tommy stood 6'2" and weighed 225 pounds. He wasn't compensating for anything. He was a physically terrifying man from a family that had run organized crime on 2 coasts. His grandfather, Rosario DeSimone, had been boss of the Los Angeles crime family. His uncle Frank held the same position from 1956 to 1967. Tommy wasn't some street kid who stumbled into the mob. He was Mafia royalty. He was also, by every account, a genuine psychopath. Henry Hill said Tommy once shot and killed a random stranger on the street just to test a new gun. Turned to Henry afterward and said, "Well, I'm a mean cat." That's who Tommy DeSimone was, not the charming maniac Pesci gave us. Something colder, something emptier. And while Henry rotted in Lewisburg, Tommy went to Karen's home. According to Hill's later accounts, first in Gangsters and Goodfellas, then in more detail in the Lufthansa heist, DeSimone showed up at Karen's house and made aggressive sexual advances. When she refused, he exposed himself to her. He beat her. He tried to rape her. Hill wrote it bluntly. Tommy beat the crap out of my wife, tried to rape her right before I got out of the joint. Karen did the only thing she could. She went to Paul Vario. And Vario's reaction was volcanic. Not because Karen was Henry's wife, because Karen was his. According to the Lufthansa heist, Vario swore to her that Tommy's remaining days would not outlast the life of a mouse. That wasn't a figure of speech. That was a death sentence spoken by a man who had the power to carry it out. But Tommy didn't die right away. Not yet. Because in December 1978, something happened that changed everything for everybody. The Lufthansa heist, December 11th, 1978. A crew organized by Jimmy Burke hit the Lufthansa cargo terminal at JFK Airport. They walked out with $5 million in cash and $875,000 in jewelry. It was the largest cash robbery in American history at that time, and Tommy DeSimone was part of the crew. The heist went perfectly. The aftermath was a massacre. Burke started killing everyone connected to the job. Anyone who talked too much, anyone who spent too conspicuously, anyone who might crack under FBI pressure. And Tommy had a specific problem. According to multiple accounts, he'd pulled off his mask during the robbery. Hostages could identify him. He was already under surveillance. But the Lufthansa cleanup was not the only force closing in on Tommy. The Gambino family had been waiting nearly 9 years. On June 11, 1970, Tommy and Jimmy Burke had beaten and stabbed William Billy Batts Bentvena to death, a made member of the Gambinos. Batts had humiliated Tommy at a bar, calling him a shoeshine boy, referencing his childhood. Tommy could not let it go. He and Burke killed a made man without commission permission. That is an automatic death sentence under mob rules. The Gambinos had been pressing the Lucchese family for years. Where's Batts? What happened to Batts? And there was a third debt. On December 18, 1974, Tommy had killed Ronald Foxy Girothy, a protege of John Gotti, after Girothy threatened him for beating his sister. That gave Gotti something beyond business. That was personal. So here's the question. For nearly a decade, the Gambinos wanted Tommy dead, and Paul Vario kept protecting him. Vario shielded Tommy from retribution. He stalled. He deflected. He used his influence within the Lucchese family to keep the Gambinos at bay. Then, Tommy assaulted Karen Hill, and the shield came down. According to Henry Hill's account, when John Gotti finally came to Vario and formally requested permission to kill DeSimone, Vario didn't just agree. He confirmed that Tommy had killed Billy Batts, giving the Gambinos the official justification they'd been waiting 9 years to get. The Batts murder was the reason on paper. Karen Hill was the reason in the room. That calculation would prove fatal, and Tommy never saw it coming. Now remember the scene from the top. The suit, the silk tie, the drive to Queens. Tommy believed every second of it. He had no reason not to. Being made was the only thing he'd ever wanted, and Paul Vario's own son was driving him there. That detail matters. Peter Vario behind the wheel meant this was sanctioned at the highest level. Tommy trusted Paulie. He trusted the family. He walked into that room the way a man walks into church on the day he gets baptized, and the room was empty. Here's what makes that moment worse than the movie version. In Goodfellas, Pesci walks in and figures it out in a single beat, oh no, and takes a bullet to the back of the skull. Quick, almost merciful. But the real accounts are uglier. Henry Hill originally told the FBI that Peter Vario and Facciolo handed Tommy off to Gambino family members who executed him. Years later, Hill told Howard Stern a different version, that John Gotti personally killed DeSimone, and that it took a long time because Gotti wanted him to suffer for Foxy Girothy and Billy Batts. Mob informant Sal Polisi claimed that Thomas Agro tortured Tommy slowly while Gotti watched. Another version entirely, from Gambino associate Greg Buccaroni, says Jimmy Burke killed DeSimone at Burke's own home and shipped the body to a Philadelphia scrap metal yard to be melted down. Nobody agrees on how it ended, but everybody agrees on this. Tommy DeSimone walked into that room alive. He never walked out. Angela DeSimone reported him missing on January 14, 1979. He was 28 years old. His body has never been found. He was declared legally dead in 1990. The aftermath radiated outward like shrapnel. Tommy's brother-in-law, Joseph the Barber Spione, was murdered for refusing to help set up the hit. Tommy's mistress, Teresa Ferrara, was found dismembered. His brother Anthony was killed by Thomas Agro later that same year. Everybody connected to Tommy DeSimone died or disappeared. That's the pattern. Once the machine turns on you, it doesn't just take you, it takes everyone near you. Paul Vario never recovered from what came next. When Henry Hill got arrested on narcotics charges in 1980, he flipped, became a government witness. His testimony sent Vario to prison on fraud charges in 1984 and extortion in 1985. Vario died of lung cancer on May 3, 1988, at the age of 73, inside a federal prison cell in Fort Worth, Texas. The man who'd run $25,000 a day in illegal operations died in a government-issued bed, gasping for air. Jimmy Burke was convicted for the Boston College point shaving scheme and the murder of Richard Eaton, but he was never convicted for Lufthansa. He died of lung cancer on April 13, 1996, at 64. The Lufthansa aftermath produced at least 9 murders. Burke's paranoia turned every participant into a liability. And Karen Hill? She filed for divorce in 1990. It took 12 years to finalize, partly because Henry had bigamously married another woman in 1981 while still in witness protection. Karen took an assumed name. She disappeared from public life completely. She is believed to be alive today at approximately 80 years old. She has never spoken publicly about the affair with Vario. She has never confirmed or denied the assault. Her silence is the last closed door in a story full of them. Henry Hill died on June 12, 2012, one day after his 69th birthday, from complications of heart disease in a Los Angeles hospital. His girlfriend told reporters he went out peacefully, for a good fella. Here's what this story actually reveals. Goodfellas tells you the Mafia operates on rules. You kill a made man without permission, you die. Clean. Simple. That's the code. But that's the Hollywood version. The real version is messier, dirtier, more human. Tommy DeSimone wasn't killed because he broke a rule. He was killed because 3 forces converged on him at the same time. The Gambinos wanted blood for Billy Batts, John Gotti wanted revenge for Foxy Girothi, and Paul Vario wanted punishment for what Tommy did to the woman Vario was sleeping with. The rule violation gave them the paperwork. The personal rage gave them the timing. That's how it actually works. The code isn't about honor. It's a management tool. You follow the rules when it's useful. You enforce them when it's convenient. And when someone gives you a personal reason to destroy them, the rules become the excuse, not the cause. Tommy DeSimone wasn't killed for breaking mob law. He was killed because he touched the wrong woman. And the man who owned that woman had been waiting for a reason to let him die. Somewhere under the concrete or the scrap metal or the dirt of some unmarked lot, what's left of Tommy DeSimone is still wearing that Bill Blass suit. Beige silk tie, knotted tight, dressed for the best night of his life. He never got to take the jacket off. If this story changed the way you see Goodfellas, hit subscribe. We break down the real stories behind mob cinema every single week. Here's a question for the comments. If Vario hadn't been sleeping with Karen, do you think Tommy survives? Or was he dead the moment he killed Billy Batts? Drop your take below. Until next time.